Hello, and welcome to the Cedar River Snag-After Hours. We are mundane background noise, impromptu talk, but I promise you it's the good impromptu. Well, I guess not impromptu, but improv. I promise you it's the good improv. And we are here to just fill that void of people that need something to listen to that's slightly entertaining, but you can check in and out of. Maybe you're falling asleep, maybe you're working. Put me in that little box. It doesn't matter. You're not going to miss anything here. Literally thought about running a static screen for a while, but instead, you can see the ambiance if you want to. That's what we are here for. And before I go too much further, Halloween's coming up, and this one will probably drop. We still got a ways to Halloween, right? Right. And so Halloween's going to drop. And I'm going to try to time this one to be in there because on Halloween, I like to do a little bit of that Dia de la Muerte. We remember our friends and our family that have passed. We tell our favorite stories. And, we remember. That's one thing that I like to do on that is remember. So this one's going to kind of be related to that, even though it's not a ghost story or whatever. This is about people that have passed. But it really involves a goat, not a ghost. This is more of a goat story. That's what we're going with today. This is going to be a goat story. And so, let me frame myself here. Before we go too much further, I'll let you know right now, this is not intended for children. If you let your seed of the earth run free through the great land of YouTube, it's probably not the worst thing they're going to see. But there is strong language, suggestive, whatever, and it's just generally not intended for children. And I am your host. Hi, Cedar. You got Daphne, who you will probably never see, recovering from a major injury that you still need to get fixed. And you don't do a lot, but look at me, so it's all good. And if you're like, I know you, I recognize you, I know this or whatever, yep, that's me. This is one of my projects. Hi. Many versions of this, I would say check out my TikTok, the Cedar River Snag. Anything, if you search the Cedar River Snag, you'll probably find me. But, before I go further on myself, we're telling a goat story. And this actually, I like to tie this back. I think this will be an October drop, right? Right, okay, so in October, Dia de la Muerte, these are my family members that have passed. And, oh, Lordy. I had an uncle, and I'm just going to say his name because he's my relative. I can do that, right? Everybody called him Pud, so you can expect that is, what you picture is what you get. He actually lived in a school bus camper. I'm getting feedback. If my audio is weird, one, I'm sick, sorry. And two, I don't know what the hell's going on. But, he lived in a camper. It was made out of a school bus down on the back side of the slough off the river. And he had a little piece of property down there, and he had this weird fence all the way around it that was made out of like fencing material and barbed wire. But it was also made out of like roadwork signs, anything he could steal. I think there was a cart corral from like a grocery store back in the day in there. And literally like whatever he could steal and piece together was his fence. And the school bus was buried halfway in a hill in the back, and they would fish the creek and eat it, and he lived just kind of the life that you would expect. He had these two goats in there, and these aren't the cute little, like, fuzzy, petable, I'm gonna play with you goats, right? These are straight up the 5-foot tall, 4-foot tall, Bahamut-looking, mean-ass goats, and they are wild. Like, they are not pets. They are pretty much wild, running around his property. And he used them to keep the police from catching him. Literally, he was on the run for like 6 months. And the police wouldn't go in there because of the goats. Like when he would go in and just like go run to the store, grocery, or get beer and come back, like he would run from the goats. So they were not friendly. They were very wild. They were very mean. They did not like people. And from the situation they lived in, you could probably understand why. Anyway, long story short, he ended up getting arrested, and I could tell this could be another episode of Self just explaining this dude. But anyway, he got arrested. My uncle this would be my, he was my, would have been, I guess it would have been a great uncle, was the guy that lived out there. My uncle took one of these goats, one of these big, like 5 foot tall, mean goats, right? And he lived in this little subdivision of these tiny little cookie cutter houses. Everyone's the same. They all got like similar backyards, and some are different. Anyway, everything's like the same. Like he's not out in the country or whatever. And he brings this goat home. Well, in his backyard, he digs a hole and buries an axle of a car, so the top of it's sideways. So, like one rim, well, not even rim, but like one axle where you put the rim on is sticking up, and he chained the goat to this. And his idea was he was going to tame the goat. He would go out and hand feed the goat and try to, like break the goat basically. And goat was big, mean, pissed off, and just having none of this with him. But he tried. And he went out there one day, and I think he got within range and was feeding it, and it was all good, and it reared up, and it like headbutted him or something. Knocked him on the ground. He was pissed off, got up, took the head of lettuce he was feeding the goat, and just chucked it at this goat. Goat got mad, ran around a little bit, came up to get him, got to the end of the chain, right? Chain broke. Oh, yes. Chain broke. So here's this big, freed, pissed off goat in the back of my uncle's yard. And my uncle's on the ground, like, jumped back, laying on the ground, trying to, like, get away from this goat. And he's like, the goat's just running circles. He's like, around the axle where it was chained to. Like, goat's realizing, I am now free. And he's like, so I kind of crawled back real slowly, opened my sliding glass doors. He's like, crawled inside. He goes, I jumped behind the couch and watched over that so the goat couldn't see me. He's like, it ran around the backyard, pissed off for a while, looking around. He's like, it stopped. It ate the lettuce. He goes, was like throwing it up in the air, like frustrating. He was like looking for me. And he goes, the goat don't see me. He goes, and I see it. Look. It's looking down the way, down the neighbor's. And he goes, that goat turns, and it's all of his attention's just locked. He's like, so I look out. He's like, I go, crawl to my kitchen. I look out the window. He's like, and down the yonder, there's a Mexican family that's having this big birthday, like a big birthday party. And like, probably there's kegs and like a bouncy house, and their whole backyard's fenced off. Like his yard's open in the back, but they got like a 6 foot tall privacy fence around their backyard. He's like, and you can hear this. He's like, you can see kids. You can see all this. You can hear the people. And this goat's just locked in on this party now. He goes, and I watched that goat. It took off running full steam ahead. And all of a sudden, it just leaped over that fence. He's like, into the middle of this birthday party. He goes, all of a sudden, I just hear people screaming. He's like, bloody murder. People are screaming. He goes, you can hear people yelling. He goes, there are people throwing kids up over the 6 foot tall fence out from behind it. He goes, I don't know what the hell this goat's doing over there. He goes, so I do the logical thing. He's like, I shut off all my lights. I close all my curtains. And he goes, I'm just not home for like the next 2 or 3 days. He goes, I'm just not home. Because I have no idea what happened to that goat. No idea where it went. No idea the outcome of that. But he told me that story. I could just imagine being at that birthday party, and all of a sudden this giant pissed off devil goat comes leaping over a fence, is knocking your picnic tables everywhere, attacking your bouncy house, chasing your children down. Like, oh, it should not be so horrible. But yeah, and I mean them goats, they were wild. They did not have a good upbringing, because my great uncle who had him, literally, he lived in that school bus, and pretty much most of my life he was on the run. I mean, honest to God, he was wanted, and that's why he hung out down there, because nobody could tell if you were there or not. They wouldn't go in because of the goats. And, you'd have your wino friends hang out down there and let them talk to him or what. So, oh. Howdy, sorry. I record these live to tape. Like I said, they're impromptu, they're live to tape. we had a slight audio difficulty that I had to correct. So, not like I'm really editing anything out or, trying to change the game plan on you. But, yeah, I mean, so the goats weren't like necessarily happy goats. They lived down there. They were probably mean to him. They were attack goats. And God bless my uncle. He passed away. And one of the craziest stories about him, which there's tons of them. One time, we're going to run on this one. One time, there's a police report about this man, and he was downtown, and he was drunk, and the police tried to arrest him, and he literally grabbed a parking meter and worked it until it was out of the ground, and then wielded a parking meter as a weapon. No lie, he fought off 6 cops for a couple hours with a parking meter. It's kind of impressive. I don't think I could pull a parking meter out of the ground. And he wasn't even that big of a guy, but he was just one of them amped up guys. He wasn't small, but he was just very amped up. But yeah, that's the kind of guy he was. And he rehabbed pit bulls. He'd spent a lot of time with ex-fighting dogs and stuff, and he would make them big couch hippos and cuddle bugs and everything else. And he had done that to a lot of he found a bird in the alley one time. And I mean, all these little offshoots I go on, I could do 15 minutes on each of them. But, just briefly on this one before we wrap it up here. He found a bird in the alley one time, and he thought it flew and hit a window, heard it is his little bird. And he brought it in, and he was feeding it birdseed. And he literally was mixing in protein powder and creatine exercise stuff. And he made these little rigs to tie fishing sinkers to this bird's feet. And he would let this bird, fly around his house with these weights on its feet and everything else till it was strong enough to let it go. So he pretty much sent out a jacked up bodybuilding steroid bird into his neighborhood. It was probably get out of my nest. But I mean, I don't know. That was the kind of dude he was. In his mind, he was saving that bird. You know what I mean? We gotta let him out. And you could tell the prison time he had, because one time he got a goose that would attack all of his ducks. And he put a pin in the little duck enclosure the goose was in, and he would put the goose in there. He'd be like, this is solitary confinement. I'll leave him in there for a week. I'll let him out. He'll calm down. That was my uncle. So that's why him taking that goat is not necessarily bizarre. And the fact that he did it in that little housing addition, that's a little questionable. Because what, dude? That's my family. And I just say, sounds like I got cans everywhere, and really I don't. They're just poorly positioned. But yeah, he has passed, and I never got around to this, but he taught me how to write and draw. He was left-handed. So I literally went to school writing and drawing left-handed, and then sometimes I would use my right hand, and I remember the teachers being like, which hand are you? You got to pick one. So it became right-handed. And I didn't realize that, I don't know if he did this or a combination or genetics, whatever, but I'm actually ambidextrous. Because when I draw this side, I will draw with this hand, and when I get to the middle, I will switch and draw with this hand. Literally, there is no differential between the two. Same way with catching a baseball. I can put a glove on either hand, catch with either hand, and throw with either hand with equal. The only sport that really paid off for was basketball. Believe it or not, being able to shoot left-handed or right-handed, it didn't matter what that was probably sport-wise. That and darts, because I'm slightly better with my right-handed darts. But I'm not bad with my left hand, so I can do that. Ha! Oh, you beat me. All right, let's play again. But this time, I'm going to use my right hand because I'm not left-handed moment. But anyway, completely sidetracked on that one. But that's kind of my remember, and we'll throw that in there. That's the Dia de la Muerte. I remember my uncle, all the wonderful things about him, but I will never forget him getting that damn goat and turning it loose on his subdivision. Ugh. That makes me chuckle to this day. Thanks for joining. If you're looking for background noise, you're looking for a podcast type deal, you're looking for something that you can listen to on YouTube, minimize it, and not have to worry about the video, check in and out of, because it doesn't really matter what you're listening to, because it's not important. This is what I'm here for. That is the niche. That is, you have found us. If you want to do the stuff of clicking the stuff, go for it. The more support I get, the more of these I'll pump out. I think we're gonna try to get a pretty good roster in the beginning, because there ain't nothing like needing background noise, and then you find a good one, and they got like 40 minutes, and you're like, okay, great. After that 40 minutes, I can listen to them again. But you want that library so you can be like, okay, I haven't heard this one, in 6 months. This one's one of my favorites. We're going to try to throw them out there and then see if there's any traction or whatever. Maybe this can will just die. God, I hope not. Maybe it'll take off. We'll see. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, everybody. I'm losing my voice. We will see you next time.